Hello, everybody. It's great to see all of you there. I'm very happy to be here. I know I threatened to skip this week, but the guy upstairs didn't seem to let me. And I'm very glad the way things worked out. The problems, the work that I had to do this week that I was planning to take off for went very, very quickly. So the necessary. They're the show. By the way, let's see, Karen Yee, and everybody, but it's in response to a comment that she put up. I actually have a Saturday afternoon live radio show on Radio Maria, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, every Saturday, and that's a call-in program. And then I record those programs, and I put them up as YouTube videos. So the YouTube video is actually not live. However, the show is live. And not only that, it's a call-in show. And I have to admit, you can always get through. I don't have a lot of callers. So if any of you are interested in doing that, it might be fun. And it gives you a chance to pester me in person with questions on the phone. And anyway, and it's another live. And I'm going to try to figure out the technology to kind of live stream it with video, maybe on YouTube simultaneously with connecting to the radio station, do it in audio over the air on Radio Maria. But in any case, Radio Maria can be heard anywhere on the website radiomaria.us. And of course, one can call in with either Skype or... So anyway, that is in response to Katie's question about was this live show. And Chris, I hope, I don't know, but it sounds like a coincidence. I wonder whether your priest in Kansas might, if he did a homily on Margaret Costello, in which case I would be gratified and flattered. And finally, I don't think I'm going to have any technical problems on the show, but Google decided to kick me off of YouTube at the beginning of the week. So I went into a panic trying to get reapproved. Google, YouTube is part of Google. And thank God I did, but my computer setup is not exactly where it was before. I'm still partly locked out of YouTube, but I have enough access. So I hope there isn't a problem there. It may make it more difficult. It looks like for the moment I'm in that stream. Anyway, enough blathering. The saint of today, Saint Claude de la Colombiere. I like doing saints that are less well known. I sometimes get comments, what about doing Therese of Lisieux or Teresa of Avila? And that would be wonderful. But it's also fun to deal with these saints that many people haven't heard of, but who might be just as spectacular. And Claude de la Colombiere is one of them, I believe. Now, why is he of interest? Part of the reason he's of interest is we would not have the devotion to the Sacred Heart, or we would not know about it if it weren't for him, because he was the spiritual director to St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, who was the, I don't want to say ignorant peasant, but the ordinary, no name, nothing, nun in a visitation convent in Pré-le-Monial to whom Jesus appeared and gave her the Sacred Heart, the apparitions of the Sacred Heart, and the message to spread devotion to the Sacred Heart as much as possible, and also the theology behind that, which is not that dissimilar from St. Faustinus. It's how much he loves us and how much he just wants us to turn to him, so forth. However, nobody was prepared to believe her. She was an absolute nothing, and her sisters in her convent, thought they were very envious, and they thought, what's this nothing doing, claiming that Jesus is all be made up in hysteria and everything. Very hard to get somebody to take her seriously and believe her. And Claude de Colombiere, as I will say in the course of the program, was very prestigious. He was a big shot. He was a big shot, so to speak, in the church in a way, and very highly respected theologian, professor, sermon. What's the noun? A homilist, I guess you'd say. He was, in some sense, a favorite of the King of France. So when he threw his weight behind St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, everybody basically had to believe her. And he also worked hard to spread the devotion himself, but he also enabled the infrastructure of the church to embrace Margaret Mary apparitions, propagate the devotion. If I'm not mistaken, the King of France created France. I don't remember exactly. Maybe someone remember or Google it and let me know that's. But and all as a result of St. Margaret Mary's apparitions, which only made it into the public awareness because. Okay, born the dates middle of the 17th century. Claude de Colombiere was born 2nd of February 1641, and he died 1482. He was from I always forget to show pictures. He was from a very high family, a grande famille, France, great family, aristocratic, basically, of the aristocracy. Here you see a portrait of him. He was, as you can tell from the portrait, in fact, he was not only wealthy, but he was, dare I say, foppish. He was part of the high life. His family and him before he became a Jesuit. And so he was born into this wealthy family in a village called Saint-Symphorien, not far from Lyon. Lyon was the center of a lot of his. And he was sent to a very good boarding school at the age of 10 in Lyon, in fact, the College of Trinity, Jesuit school. Professors were Jesuit. And if I'm allowed to say so, those were the days when Jesuits were Catholic. I don't really mean that. There's some very good Jesuits, even today. But in those days, it really was the church's Greens special. Oh boy, I may have to change my shirt, right? I think it's dancing green. Oh, well, who knows? Anyway, so he went to this Jesuit school at the age of 10. He was a very gifted student. He was always very smart. And he enjoyed it very much. He liked the Jesuits very much. And he also liked fine dining and wine. Never missed a concert and going to the theater and so forth. He really liked the life of luxury in some sense, the life of high culture, probably fairer to say, that was available in the urban center in France. He had a very active social life, loved, as I said, theater, concerts, dining, and he was very much inclined to the arts and literature. In fact, his first study, his first degree, so to speak, was in however, two things about his time at this boarding school, which ran from when he was 10 to when he was 17. The first is that the rector of the boarding school was a pretty big-time Jesuit called Father Bez, and he will appear later in the story because he ended up being the confessor to King Louis XIV, who was King of France at the time. So, and also he was very impressed by Claude de Colombiere when he was an adolescent student of his. So we'll see later that Claude de Colombiere's relationship with this very eminent professor of his, who later became the confessor to the king, plays a central role in this one. And just to show a little bit of what a big shot Father Bez was, I'm drawing a blank on his first name. That's remember it. It's odd. I think it's X. But in any case, he had he published a book, a textbook, a scholarly book, an academic book on philosophy in Latin, of course, called more or less, a tour of 4 philosophies: rational, natural, supernatural, moral. Book about rational philosophy, natural philosophy, supernatural philosophy, and moral philosophy, presumably also pairing them. Tour of 4 views of philosophy. So he was no small shake. And anyway, so enough about Father Chez. I actually have La Chez. I have a picture. He looks very impressive to me. There's substance behind those eyes. Substance and intelligence, and probably relationship with God, and probably even kind of love, a kind of holy love. Oh boy. The human person was so substantial in those days compared to now. Anyway, so that's, whoops, I should get back to me, I suppose. Was Father La Chez. And then, so when Claude de Colombiere was 17 and about to graduate from I have a picture. Okay. Yeah, I have a picture of this too. Nothing I don't blow. Okay. I somewhere I have a picture of the outside of the school. I don't know if I'll get it up in time. But this is a picture of the chapel of the school. The event there was some large political event that took place 100 years later. However, it shows you what a huge and important place it was. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to, you guys are all right, so I can be a little bit sloppy here. Let me try to get the school, the school itself. Oh yeah, okay. Let's see if this works. This is in fact the school itself, the far side of the river. So if you can see that very large, substantial building at the foot of the bridge. So okay. So that's where he went to high school, and that's his connection with Father La Chez, I said. And I want to read the high school graduation. It's essentially the graduation speech by one of the prominent professors at the high school when Claude de Colombiere finished course there. By the way, very bad sound. Is it still very bad sound? I do have the chat, so very bad audio. Everyone's saying very bad audio. Intermittent sound, very bad audio. Let me see what I can do. Tell anything. Okay, I know there's about a 40-second lag between when you hear me talk and when I see your chat. I am using my usual microphone. And I am using my usual mic. better now. As I said, I haven't quite made up with YouTube yet. And yes, I know that the most important cemetery in Paris is called the Père Lachaise, and I do think it's named after him, but I didn't actually look into that. And yes, I do know that Jim Morrison of the Doors is buried there. People make pilgrimages to the tomb all the time. Fading in and out. Oh, wait a minute. There's one thing. Excuse me. Let me see if I can try to maybe. Whoops. Okay. Well, my headphone is not. I'll be happy to unplug it, but it's not part of the problem. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, some people have fine sound. Anyway, okay, sorry. So I was at this farewell sermon given at the high school. Very important in the life of Claude Colombiere. And I do want to interject and say, I think this is going to spread over 2 Sundays. Because I think today, it's like what happened with Edith Stein. I'll have time to tell his life, and I'll have time to talk about some of his writings. But I really want to talk about this very wonderful book he wrote called Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence. And so I think that his writings and discussing his work might spread over next Sunday. Anyway, so here's the farewell sermon when he graduated high school. Who has not heard again and again of Isaac Jogues? You guys know Isaac Jogues, one of the American martyrs, had his fingers chewed off by the Indians and came back from war. There's a picture of him, and if you look closely, you can see he has stubs, a few of his fingers. And he escaped and made it back to France. They were off by the peace-loving American Indians. Just flower children in missionary. But anyway, he escaped, made it back to France, and wanted to get back to North America as soon as he could to continue saving the Indians. So, here's the farewell sermon. Who has not heard again and again of Isaac? Who has not thrilled from his earliest days, heroic fortitude on earth? Another, along with Isaac Jogues, they were both Jesuits. Sermon was given in this. Who can wander up and down our boulevards complacently, knowing there are Frenchmen like ourselves, facing death hourly, walked yesterday where we walk today? I forgot to mention that this took place. Isaac Jogues, Jean de Brébeuf, and the North American martyrs were 10 years before this sermon was being preached. So this was current events. Current events. It's not only the same century, it's the same decade. Anyway, many are the lanes in France where we have walked after Father Jogues. But who of us will run with him up the hill, shore of the Mohawk River in New France? Picture ourselves dashing up with him among his Huron converts between 2 lines of Iroquois savages who wait to strike us with their sticks and clubs. Who of us will run the gauntlet for our Lord? Yet those martyrs grew up in France, wearing lace ruffles and powdered wigs to royal dances. They have drunk the finest wines in civilized cities. Now where are they? They have wintered in the forest, starved in savage huts. They have drunk melted snow, bent their finely trained minds to learning the Huron tongue. I seem to hear you say, my friends, that this is not for me. You think of Père Brébeuf's death and wonder, what had this martyr to teach me? There he is, my friend. Picture him standing on the torturer's platform. Even the savages admire him. Even the Iroquois must discover the limit of his endurance and then drink his blood to merit his bravery. Watch them approach with fiery eyes and string round his neck 6 red-hot hatchets. See the water boiling nearby, which they will pour on him in derision of the baptism. Have seen the black robe. Yes, my brother, but watch even more carefully Père Brebeuf himself. See there how even as the savages slicing off his flesh, crude flint knife, he is. Listen to him encourage his converts in their native tongue. He who knows all the language. Hear the words come through his face, streaming with from where they have cut off his. Even the savages wonder what motives have to endure. Now they perform the last rite. They scalp our country, tear out his heart with their fingers. They will drink the blood of this man, thinking, most of you will never leave France, Père Papon. May I ask you just the same? Think of what the martyrs' lives mean. Martyr means witness. There are 2 questions. First, what are these men giving witness to far from home? Is it not the reality of God's grace and to its power to move the hearts of savages when men have failed? Second, is there no way in which we too can be martyrs or witnesses here in France? But do not expect me to answer my own questions. I simply do not know the answer. You do. Only you can tell exactly how you are called to be a witness. God bless you all. Okay, so this was the high school graduation speech, so to speak, that Claude de Colombiere heard. Claude de Colombiere was one of these, aristocratic young men wearing lace ruffles and powdered wigs to royal dance, finest wines, and so forth. And this beautiful, stirring sermon God used to move his heart, because he then went to Père Papon, who was in charge, novices, Jesuit novices, and asked to be made a novice. Père Papon tried to talk him out of it, describing the hardships of the Jesuit life. They took a vow to basically go wherever they're sent, even if it's, of course, to the Huron Indian, to India. Many of the most famous self-mortifying, self-denying missionaries, like St. Francis Xavier comes to mind, Jesuit. Being martyred in China, being martyred in China, Vietnam, and American Indians, and so on. And so Father Papon tried to talk him out of joining. And his response was, my father, I have the greatest aversion for the life you described, yet I would like to become a Jesuit. And this is one of the remarkable things about Claude de Colombiere, is he really hated, I don't want to say doing what he was doing, but he, on the one hand, he wanted to do the will of God, however distasteful it was to him. He didn't want anything to stand in the way of doing God. And he was fully aware that this was not for him, in the sense of his personality, his natural aptitude, taste, and so forth. But it didn't matter. And so he even had the effrontery to say to the novice master, so to speak, who was trying to talk him out of it, I have the greatest aversion for the life you're describing. Nonetheless, I want. Before I move on, though, I can't give short shrift. Okay. Chat stream interruption. They're suggesting I pray about the audio. Let me see something. I will take a 5-minute break and shut down my system, start it up again. So anyway, let me do that. Okay, I'll be back in, it probably will take 5 minutes.